Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here again, and it's a pleasure to see you all out in flying colours and looking well. And as I suppose Justin has mentioned, some of you may not be as well as others, but look, this is great to see that Tom was out there fetching more chairs. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. Some of you are patients of ours, and some of you are patients from other groups, and maybe some of you want to become patient of ours, and I think that this type of meeting also facilitates access, and access is a very big important. Jerome, where are you going to? Welcome as well, and thank you, because Donald spoke about a team with Connor, and the whole concept, I suppose, of the definition of discipline, respect, and leadership. It is important. It's not the only thing, but we need to have that, and I suppose Donal and I setting this up with Justin and the group, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit just so that you understand why it's important that we have sort of ventures such as certification, creation of what we call a centre of excellence. It sounds very high and mighty, almost an elite thing, and our ambition is to make you part of an elite structure, because you are, and but to do that we do need to have sort of structure around that, and that's what we've been trying to achieve. I think the best example of that is to see that we have a surgeon who gives a philosophical talk on survivorship. That to me is just a demonstration of how we are so fortunate to have somebody like Justin, and Justin's not the only person. We've got a lot of people who are in the same frame of mind, but Justin really exemplifies that leadership skills in a thoughtful, meaningful way that we can, in a multidisciplinary clinic on a Friday morning in Vincent's, I can call him and say, Justin, I've got Johnny's here. Jesus, I'd love you to come down and have a look at this scan, and or wants to rediscuss something, and we'll always give that time and that reflection on not just cutting out and making sure that the aftermath of the surgery is done, but also listening and planning. And there's one example of a patient that I cite, and where we really ask him to go the extra mile. Nobody else would do it. Per would, of course. And Per also is an example of this, because this thoughtful, philosophical approach to the integrated pathways that patients with neuroendocrine tumors, that you individuals with neuroendocrine tumors pose, it's vital. So thank you for that, and thank you for being our surgical lead, because that really does also foster great developmental skills for the younger people within his surgical group coming through, and it does go to show how these things are important. So the neuroendocrine structure, whether it's in Cork or in Galway or in Dublin, it's a buy-in process, and whether it comes from the patients up or NCCP down, it doesn't matter. We're on a journey together, and it started a number of years ago, and it's been reinforced. It's been reinforced with the help of, first of all, people like Tommy and Mark and Carmel and all of the people on the board here. The advocacy group has been vital. It's been vital at a local level, and it's been vital also in linking through to the NCCP with Jerome Coffey and other colleagues as well. We're not perfect, and we'll never be perfect. There's no definition of perfection. Uppsala has got a wonderful centre, a standalone structure, and we're trying to get towards that, and slowly but surely we're decreasing that gap, and even Uppsala is not perfect, of course, but we're trying to achieve some sort of homogeneous approach by trying, for example, to go through this European neuroendocrine tumor accreditation process, for example. And what does that mean? It's called an ENETS for short, Centre of Excellence. I'm the chair of that program, I may have said to you before, in Europe. Sometimes I'm not here on a Friday morning because I might be at a meeting to sort of see about these structures and about accreditation process, etc. And what it's trying to do is to really have a very homogeneous and sort of unified approach to dealing with patients with your diseases, so that if you're in Sofia in Bulgaria or Dublin or in Manchester, that, you know, the diagnostic tests that we have and the therapies that we have available to us, that they're fairly much unified, and that, you know, that an oncologist, for example, is not treating him or her on their own sort of whims and wishes, or anybody else for that matter. I'm taking an oncologist, it's the most normal example because they are tumors, and very often the first port of call is to an oncologist. The oncologist may not be an expert in the area of the neuroendocrine tumor, and the Center of Excellence accreditation process also puts that center on the map, so it tries to filter the patients with your problems through to the right area. And that journey, in fact, in Europe has been important because, you know, we're at the doorstep now of trying to get through to that. And what it does, it heightens awareness from National Cancer Control, from the Department of Health, right down. So if you get accreditation, then hopefully you build up resources, you build up patient numbers, and you create a better environment to look after you. I'll give you an example. It's not just having gallium PET CT, and I'll mention that in a moment, but it's also about the patient experience. So a vital component, and it's something that I'm going to ask you more to be involved with, and Mark as well as a leader of this group, is the patient involvement. So one of the requirements, of course, is that, and we have to look at this now in a very active way, you know, feedback from the patients that come to your center, patient questionnaires, and we're really in an active sort of process of trying to develop this, and I think that the patient network program is ideal to. We'll sit down and develop this even further. So the Center of Excellence accreditation system it'll be in December of this year, and we'll see whether we've got enough to get through. If we don't this year, well, we'll go back at it next year, and we'll try to rectify any of those the deficiencies that are there. And we always have a little bit of deficiencies, but I think we're not far off it. So fingers crossed, and hopefully we can get over that barrier. One of the things as well, and I've seen three of my patients present here this morning who are waiting for an octreoscan scan, right? It's terrible. St. Vincent's University Hospital, who now with our group is the National Designated Centre, you can imagine an octreoscan scan. Most of you have had an octreoscan scan, or some of you had anyhow. So you get an injection of a radioisotope, you come back 4 hours after, and then you come back sometimes 8 hours, or you come back the next morning, and sometimes even a third day. So it's an old scan. It's a vital scan. It's a vital scan for to send over to PERS group in Uppsala or to Rotterdam for the lutetium treatment, because you have to have positive uptake in your tumor deposits so that you can go for that treatment. But it's a long and laborious scan. It's been inundated now, the requests in Vincent's, because we've got more and more patients, etc. So there's a delay. And I've farmed out some of the St. James's, etc. But the good news is, and through your help, through help from Jerome as well, putting pressure on the group in St. Vincent's University Hospital, and we've been able to project to have a PET CT scan, which is currently actually being installed in the Department of Radiology. And I just like, and I said it last year, Richard O'Leary is a radiologist from Kerry, who gets the message actually, and it's thanks to him, and thanks to, you know, the lobbying from you, Donal and Justin, and all of us working together, and Jerome as well, who's been quietly in the background pushing this along and supporting this issue. What it'll mean is that you come in, a PET CT scan is just an injection of another little isotope that, and you have a scan like a CT scan. So it's done in a few minutes really, and it's a one-stop sort of shop really for it. So that'll be a vital, important diagnostic aid for us, not only for sending patients off for other treatment, but for proper staging. So it's really, really important. The other thing I think that the grouping together and the expertise in a single center also brings us is the opportunity to conduct clinical trials. And really that's one of the vital cog in the scientific community for us in Ireland to be able to offer you what we would say state-of-the-art treatment is to be able to offer new treatments and compare new treatments to old standards of care in a meaningful way. We're a little bit off that still, but as we increase the critical mass in terms of our numbers within the designated centres, this will improve, and it's one of our ambitions to do that. We've had a couple of clinical trials this year. A few of you here have participated or have been selected out, and some didn't get through. But the point is that this is really, really important for us to go forward, and it's really an ambition of ENETS, the European structure over the neuroendocrine tumours, is to have more and more patients in trials, because this is definitely a marker of quality, and it's vital that we have participation and access to that. There are a couple of the issues, in fact, that are going on at the moment. We had another, I suppose, development, because Mark asked me to speak about, I suppose, where we are now and where we're going. We also manage in Vincent's through the patronage of the, I suppose, the new CEO, who is a physician at the moment. He was stand-in for somebody else, and a former CEO was important in helping us set up the neuroendocrine structure in St. Vincent's Hospital. And ultimately he was replaced, and he's replaced by a physician, Michael Keane, who is a professor of medicine. And Michael also got the message and allowed us he allowed the support of not an ad hoc junior physician, but a permanent physician. And through a lot of work, we managed to get a post in place. Chin, who is not here this morning, or maybe he is, I haven't seen you come, Chin. But Jun Long is a really, really top class, he's a gastroenterologist, and he's been helping Lisa Cullen and ourselves in terms of having a focal point and somebody who's there all the time. And our ambition is to even improve this and increase this over time. So I think that's a really welcome new development. Before we had somebody there, but it was on a, let's say, a soft money funding strategy, so that we had a little bit of funds, and they ran out. And so to have a permanent, it's a senior junior post, if you like, so that we can have a focal point of contact, but also it's also a training position, so that we can educate younger people coming through in terms of the medical sense. It's really vital. So that's another important, I suppose, positive step forward. So I suppose, you know, we try to lobby as much as we can to increase the medical expertise. We have to expand, and you know, we also have to look at, Lisa is there on a Thursday and Friday, and many of you will contact Lisa going through our centre. You know, as we get bigger and bigger, then we have to think about increasing that point of contact, and also maybe embrace clinical trials going forward, and hopefully we can get that on board as well. So we've got you know, a load of ambitions. I think the first really main focus this year on a practical level is that we're going to be visited by an independent group of experts from Europe. These are experts who are completely independent to us. They're going to come in and they're going to spend 2 days going through the files independently and anonymously. They're going to look through all of the departments. They're going to go and talk to Justin and Donal and sort of say, are we up to it, basically? So hopefully I'll be able to come back to you next year or before that through Mark and say that this has been positive, and we get accreditation. And it doesn't give us if we are accredited, it doesn't say that we've got a complete stamp of approval for everything. And some of you will have, you know, bad experiences going through our centre, and it's important that we try to sort of rectify and improve on those experiences, like delays, for example, for radiology and other things. It's we're still within a system that's imperfect, and everybody knows that it's not perfect. So we're trying to decrease these amount of imperfections as much as possible. So that's, I suppose, where we are now, Mark. And over the next, I suppose, before Christmas, we'll know probably about the accreditation process. And And hopefully then that will improve things. Why is the Centre of Excellence really important? I'll just end with that note, and it is a bit technical, but it's 3 of the Centre of Excellence structures, one in America. Now it's not what we call the European accredited one, but it's fairly similar. If you look at the historical survivorship Justin was talking about, and I have to be crude about that. We can actually put statistics down and measure it, because sometimes it's important for the National Cancer Control Program and the Department of Health, etc., to compare figures. And we can see that survivorship, that the 10-year survival, in fact, around this structure, this European accreditation, has increased by 3 years for patients with mid-gut neuroendocrine tumors and disease already gone to the liver. So that's what we call an advanced stage, okay? 3 years. It's unprecedented. It's unbelievable. And that's what we call the median. So there are patients now going out to beyond a long period of time. And what really that means to translate that, why does that happen? It's because, Per Hellman will go the extra mile. Donal will seek advice from wherever. There's cooperation between groups, and it's not just one individual with their expertise. It's a combined and sharing of the knowledge of the surgeons, with the physicians, with the oncologists, with the whole group, and sometimes coming back and retreating and re-challenging in a slightly different way. We cannot be nihilistic. It's not a gentle tumor. And even somebody who's got a small thing in the appendix, cure, I don't like the word cure. I don't use the word cure anymore. I think when you've got what we call a neoplasm, even if you've got a small appendiceal tumor, sometimes they're in between sizes, and sometimes then, we're following patients up or individuals up with scans and all the rest of it, and there is a sort of a chance that things can come back. So it is a real cancer. Fortunately, some of them can be very, very slowly growing and all the rest of it, but we still have to stay on top of it. And that's why what we call the Centre of Excellence structure really does give the best chance of keeping you well and keeping you alive and safe and within your family structure. And that's the whole ambition of the accreditation process. Now, I know that sounds a bit technical, but it's vital, and hopefully we can come back and give you positive news. But it won't be finished. It's not just a stamp and then we sort of relax. On the contrary, we've got to be far more aggressive going forward and try to improve things even more. Okay, so Mark, I think they'll hand it over.